Okay, so we're glad to know you're still with us on the show this amazing second day of the year, rather. Right, so I've got with me the immediate past executive director of EIRS, that's Edo Internal Revenue Service, right here, talking about Honorable Emmanuel Okunuga.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Denise, and my viewers. Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Okay, so quickly, major talking points in 2022. We saw how inflation rates, was on an upward trend, and it keeps increasing and increasing. And according to the NBS, that's the National Bureau of Statistics, the inflation we saw last year increased steadily throughout the year, rising from 15.6% in January to 21.5% in November. You are an expert. What could be responsible for the figures that we saw last year?
All right. Let me start by saying that the figures as reported by the National Bureau of Statistics in 2021, well, the figures they reported was that inflation stood at 21.5%. But how they got the figure is not all that important to me.
Okay.
But what is important is what are the causes. Because I discovered that in Nigeria or in most African countries, we are not driven by data.
Okay.
We're not driven by data, all right? We don't have credible data for credible intelligence reporting.
So are you saying the data, the figures released by NBS is not something we can
Yes, it's not something, just an estimation. Okay. Because let's subject their figure, the NBS figure, to empirical analysis using what is happening currently in our locality. First and foremost, look at the price of bread. Last year, the price of bread last year was 430 naira in 2021. Now, in year 2022, it was 850. And that accounts for about 60% increase in prices. Then look at a bag of rice in 2021 stood at 30,000 naira. But in 2022, depending on the type of rice, you have 43,000 to 50,000, which accounts for about 50-something percent. So when you look at that and look at the figures as reported by National Bureau of Statistics, you have cause to adapt those figures. But for statistical purpose and for analysis purpose, let us just have a figure. Like what is most important is that the inflation rate is soaring. Okay, I think that is most important. Now, you ask a question as to what is responsible for the figure.
Yes.
The inflation figure of 21.5% as reported by MBS is a consequence of two key drivers of inflation in Nigeria or in Africa. Okay. Now, one, you have demand pool inflation.
Okay.
You have cost pool inflation.
Okay.
Now, what is demand pool inflation? Demand pool inflation holds the position or the view that price will rise when aggregate demand exceeds the supply of available goods for a sustained period of time. Why, on the other hand, cost pool inflation holds the view that prices of goods and services will rise as a result of the increase in the cost of production. Are you with me?
Yeah.
In the cost of production. Now, we can now begin to subdivide the causes into the following. Like, let's look at the soaring food prices, disruption in food supply chain, whether local or international. All right. We look at rise in import costs due to currency depreciation. We look at increase in the cost of production arising from inadequate infrastructure. We talk of hike in energy prices, the PMX, the premium methylated spirits, hike in electricity tariff, poor network of roads and all that impact on inflation. Then again, you look at CBN reporting with regards to the total money in circulation. Like we got a report last year that the total money in circulation is 3.2 trillion naira in circulation. And out of this money, 2.7 trillion is outside the banking system. And you can look at the difference between the 3.2 trillion, the 2.7, the balance account for money that are used for illicit funding activities, terrorist financing, kidnapping, banditry, just name them. Then again, you have pre-election campaign spending. These are some of the triggers of inflation. So you can take this out of it. Illicit funding activities, I talked about the money laundering, terrorist financing, kidnapping, banditry, vote buying, okay? So just, I think it's better, it's imperative we lay a foundation as to some of the triggers of the inflation.
How it is so really high. Okay, so quickly, one of the policies that the CBN brought out, during the year 2022 was, of course, how the CBN decided to increase interest rates, and the Apex Bank claimed that by increasing interest rates is one of the ways it will try to fight the inflation. But then we saw that even after the interest rate was increased on 2 different occasions in 2022, we saw the trend, keeps going up and up and up. It will just be very easy for someone to say CBN failed in that direction. Would you want to agree?
Okay, I will not clearly say that CBN has failed. They have tried, and they have come up with monetary policy tools to see that the inflation is curbed or controlled, all right? Now, you talked about the negative trend of the Naira, but let's look at that. The reason for the negative trend is predicated upon the fact that the declining dollar inflow, or you say the scarcity of dollars, as well as a reduction in the foreign exchange reserve, which is responsible for the foreign exchange volatility. And this is one of the major triggers of inflation. Now, it is imperative also that we understand that Nigeria is a net importer of refined petroleum product. All right? Now, a country is a net importer when the value of the goods and services it produces, is more than the value of export. All right? Now, let's look at the food inflation. NBL stood out that with their report that food inflation stood at 24.7% for the last quarter of last year. And we can equally say that Nigeria is a net importer of food. All right? The value of food, the value of money spent on importing food items in 2021 stood at $3 billion US. It's as bad as that. All right? Now, let us even look at the one that has to do with refined petroleum products. In relation to the goods and services that were imported. In 2021, the value of import, that is imported goods and services, as a percentage of our GDP, stood at 16.3%. While the value of export as a percentage of our GDP stood at 8.3%, leaving us with a balance of trade deficit of 6.7. So clearly that tells you that Nigeria is a net importer of food items or other items.
Yes.
So I think these are some of the issues we need to really look at.
Okay, so in your own opinion now, of course, as an expert, you are saying that with the little efforts that the CBN has put in place to bring up, to come up with some policies, one of them, the interest rates increments, you think they have not...
Okay, let me come to that.
Yes.
Yeah, the inflation problem we have in Nigeria,
yes,
is more of a structural problem than that of a monetary or Keynesian model.
Okay.
What am I trying to say?
Yes.
It is not that the monetary, the MPRO, the monetary policy rate, as used by CBN to control the volume of money in circulation, not that it's entirely wrong. Okay. But the challenge is that CBN has adopted a policy of using wrong prescription for a different ailment. For example,
okay,
you have headache, and I'm a doctor. I'm supposed to give you maybe paracetamol or Panadol. So, but rather we give you drugs meant for curing diarrhea and other drugs, which will not mark. Now, in this regard, I would say that the inflation problem we have in Nigeria is 70% cost pull inflation and 30% demand pull inflation.
So, yes, explaining that to a layman term, in a layman term, what would that mean?
Okay. Now let's start from the cost pull inflation. What I'm trying to say in essence is that the cost pull inflation holds the view that the price of goods and services will increase or rise in as far as there is increase in the cost of production. Now, when you talk of cost of production, what are the triggers? You talk of inadequate infrastructure. You talk of power, hike in electricity tariff. This will have a attendant effect in the price of goods and services. When you don't have good roads, okay, for farmers to convey their produce from their farms to where it can be sold. Okay, that is a factor for consideration. Then poor infrastructure in terms of a hike in electricity tariff. So many persons, so many companies have relocated to Ghana and some other countries because of the cost of production. So all these have effect on the price of goods and services. And like I said, the problem of Nigerian inflation is more or less cost pull inflation. Like I said it is 70% cost pull inflation and 30% demand pull inflation.
All right, so quickly, going forward, because of time, I'll quickly ask you this question. I mean, this government is less than how many months old? I don't know what you think the government can actually do to see that the trend, because I know if we are not careful, maybe in the next few weeks or thereabouts, we'll hear that the rates has gone high again because election is just here in February, and we know a lot of spending will also go down. So what would you suggest from an expert's point of view?
First, I have areas of recommendations here, but let's start with one. The first one, I think there is need to create great leaders. We need to redefine a new model of accountable leadership. We need a new crop of leaders that have capacity, that have competence, that have character, that are visionary, and that are irrevocably committed to the task of nation building. All right? We need leaders that will fix the infrastructural gap.
Okay.
We need leaders that will take the bull by the horn and say, we don't want anyone, we don't want any monopolies in terms of importing a generator, but let us fix the power problem. A leader that will embark on an ideological shift, all right? That's one. Then we also need followers that can hold our leaders accountable for their actions, all right? Now, again, recently you heard of the fact that CBN came up with a policy of, that has to do with the currency redesign.
Yes.
So what I would say is that now that you said they're outgoing. So first, quickly, they should take the bull by the horn again and faithfully and patriotically, if there's anything like that, implement the currency redesign policy, okay? Comb the cashless policy without caring whose house is God. Then the federal government should also share the idea of taking more loans, because currently the debt profile is the debt profile is 41.6 trillion naira, with a debt servicing ratio of 118%.
Honorable Emmanuel Okoduga, immediate past executive director of Edo State Internal Revenue Service, thank you so much
thank you,
for your expert analysis this morning on the show. The time is not enough, but hopefully we'll find a way to bring you back here.